Hey tea heads, this is Don from Mayleaf. It's winter here in London and I get to sit back and relax and enjoy the first tea release of the year. 2021 kicks off with a bang with this Yensha here. This is a Rou Gui Yensha. Finally, we have a Rou Gui in stock. We'll talk about the cultivar in a bit. Let's quickly do a brief rundown on Yensha. For those of you who don't know, Yensha is a dark oolong, which is from the Wuyi area of Fujian province. So the very, very famous mountainous area of Wuyi. Beautiful, picturesque nature reserve area, Wuyi Mountains in Fujian province, one of the most historic mountains for tea. And it's a very, very well-known tea for producing teas which are rich, which are robust, which have a lot of character to them, but more than pretty much any other tea, in my opinion, the processing of this tea is paramount to getting the most out of these leaves. That mountainous area produces incredible leaves with hundreds of different cultivars of tea, and the synergy, the relationship between the land, the leaf, and the producer needs to be perfect, needs to be exactly synced in order to produce the most incredible tea. So let's quickly go through the sort of bare bones of the processing of Yensha. Yensha tea is an oolong tea, so that means the leaves are picked when they're slightly larger, when the bud has disappeared. So you're going to get medium leaves. Those leaves are then taken and withered. That withering process produces a whole cascade of chemical reactions within the leaf as the leaf is basically freaking out because it's been picked and sort of is withering. And all of these chemical processes happen that release all of these aromatics and produce all of these beautiful, tasty compounds. When the right level of oxidation, it's not just oxidation, it's much more complex than that, but oxidation and chemical reactions have happened within the leaf, then the producer needs to fire the leaf, to heat the leaf up, to try to deactivate the enzymes in the leaf which catalyze those reactions. So in other words, trying to fix the flavor, the aromatics at that particular point. This is usually done through rolling, spinning heated air machines. So the leaves are spinning and the air is heated up within this drum, and the leaf is heated up to above 250 to 300 degrees Celsius, making sure that they don't over cook the leaf. So they're always checking the leaf, then that's taken out, and then the leaves are rested for a little bit and then rolled. And that rolling process removes all of the external membrane, brings all of the aromatics and the oils to the surface so that you get an easily extractable tea and you get the most amount of impact in your cup. After that, it goes through a drying process, usually through a conveyor belt sort of drying for a set amount of time. And then the leaf comes out as finished moucha. So it's not finished tea, it's still raw tea. It needs to go through a sorting process. This is done by hand where they manually pick out all of the stems and the larger leaves. And that is your finished tea ready for roasting. And this is the key part of Yensha. It needs to go through the skilled process of roasting on low heat over the sort of dying embers of charcoal, fruit charcoal, usually longan wood charcoal. So a fruit wood charcoal, extremely skilled, usually 8 to 10 hours on a low temperature, sort of 80 degrees to 110, so around 200 degrees Fahrenheit. But this is where, once again, the intricacy and the skill of each individual person at each individual stage is paramount, and the roasting is no different. Once that first roast has been done, then the leaf needs to rest for usually about a month or so, and then it goes through another round of roasting. And most Yenshas go through 3 to 5 rounds of roasting, and therefore the maths is pretty clear that you shouldn't be seeing any Yenshas on the market really. So if it was picked, usually they're picked around May. So they're not sort of starting the process of roasting until usually around June. So July, August, September, October, November, you're sort of looking at October being the absolute earliest that you should start to see Yensha hit the market. And again, that for me is too close to the last roast. So we like to purchase our teas usually in November, December, and then release them in around January. So these Yenshas are really hitting their stride right about now. That initial roast taste is starting to just mellow out, and you're getting all of the other character of the leaf to reveal itself. So as I said, Yenshas that are on the market, that claim to be picked on that year, that are on the market before, I would say sort of October, there or thereabouts, you'd have to think that those leaves have not been really roasted and rested to make sure that they maximize their full potential. And in Wuyi, there are hundreds of cultivars. It really sort of depends upon what your interpretation of a cultivar is, because even if you do asexual propagation, which means cutting the plant and then sort of propagating it, there's a misconception that that is identical genetics. It's not, because the plant always is mutating in terms of its genetics, in terms of the expression of its genetics, and therefore you're always going to get slightly different varieties being created. So it sort of depends on how broad your definition is of cultivar, but there are hundreds of cultivars, and one of the most popular, if not the most popular cultivar in recent years is Rou Gui. Rou Gui, sometimes called cinnamon, but more accurately translated as cassia, which is a slightly thicker bark than cinnamon. And the reason why it's called cassia is because a lot of Rou Gui has a sort of cinnamon style spice to it. But I have to say, I think that this is very simplistic, because just like all teas, every batch is different, every harvest is different, and you're going to get very different aromatics. So don't be sort of like hung up on it needs to have a cassia cinnamon taste in order for it to be Rou Gui. It really doesn't. Rou Gui, in my opinion, the character of Rou Gui is a very robust tea. It's a very, very fragrant tea, hence why it is so popular. It's been around for, you know, well over 100 years in Wuyi province, but since the mid-80s, they classified it as a cultivar, so it became standardized, and it has grown in popularity because of the fact that it is so rich, so fragrant. It's just, you know, all Yenshas hit you round the face as soon as you smell the leaves with intense aromatics and complex aromatics. Rou Gui is one of the top for the fragrance. Other tea varieties out there that are very popular, Shui Shen. Shui Shen is one of the original varieties, and Lao Tsong Shui Shen, so old bush Shui Shen is also very popular, but there are the classics like the Tie the Iron Monk, or the Golden Turtle, Shui Jin Gui, or Bai Ji Guan. Those are the very, very classic ones. And unfortunately, they're sort of less, they're still on the market, but they're less available, and Rou Gui seems to be taking over. Now, why has it taken so long for Mayleaf to purchase in a Rou Gui? Because of course we've been tasting Rou Guis for quite some time, and I've bought quite a few from my private collection. In my opinion, the price point on Rou Gui has crept up, well, has shot up quite dramatically over recent years. I did a video last year tasting a Nulan Kung Rou Gui. Nulan Kung is a particular area in Wuyi, very famous for Rou Gui. So Nulan Kung commands a ridiculously high price. I can't remember the price, but my recollection is $26,000 per kilo. Insane prices. I'll put a link in the description below if you want to check out that video. As you will see, I was very, very disappointed with that tea. And it goes to show that quality and price point are not always equivalent in tea, and you've got to watch out. A lot of the price point of tea is reflected by certain other things. For example, in this case, Nulan Kung is a very, very famous area in the Wuyi Mountains, in the Zhangyan area, so the protected nature reserve of Wuyi Mountains is very, very famous. In fact, Rou also, so Rou Gui, this is Rou Gui. Rou also is the Chinese character for meat, and Nu is cow, so Nu Rou it means beef, and often Rou Gui from Nulan Kung is called Nu Rou. It's like, you know, this is the beef. This tea is the beef of Yensha. But, you know, in my opinion, well, certainly with the ones that I've tasted, not anywhere near worth the price. And when I first tasted this one, which was selected, I mean, we get, Yensha is probably the hardest one for me to source, because we get so many and they are so complex that they really dominate the mouth. So you've got to go through lots and lots of rounds of sourcing And they can leave so much aromatic and flavor on the mouth that it's very hard to go through a lot of teas in one tasting session. But we tasted probably around 20 to 30 different Rou Guis this last year, so sort of late last year, and this came out on top, and I think is vastly superior to that ridiculously expensive New Lan Kung Rou Gui. So let's quickly scope this tea. This is season May 2020. This is the cultivar. This is the Rou Gui cultivar. This is from Yensha, which is in the Banyan, so not in the nature reserve, not in the Zhengyan area, but just outside that area of Wuyi Mountains, which again drops the price dramatically. And you know, I personally think that the most important thing is the experience in the cup rather than the tag of exactly where it comes from. And as I said, in my opinion, this beat out so many Zhengyan teas. So this is a Banyan tea from Wuyi Mountain, Fujian province, and the processing I've already explained to you. This is medium leaves. The elevation in that area is around 550 to 600 meters. So hot water is here. I'm going to warm up the Gaiwan. And I'm going to get my first proper tasting of this tea. I don't have a name for it yet, so this tasting is going to inform the name for it. So you will know after, when you're watching this video, it will have a name. But right now, it's just called Rou Gui. Actually, the producer called this fruity Rou Gui because, you know, in his opinion, this was the fruitiest Rou Gui that he had produced. We sampled quite a few from this producer, but many other producers, and this one hit the spot for us. And from my recollection, it is a fruit bomb. I'm just going straight from Gaiwan into this cup, which I just found in my cupboards this morning. I thought, oh, I fancy that. Such a traditional area, Wuyi. Let's go with a very traditional Chinese cup. Let's give the elephant a little rinse. Okay. And let's get this temperature up because it's only 85 degrees. Okay, here we go. Smell of the dry leaf. For those of you who have experienced Yenshas before, you know that it is one of the most impactful smells, the smell of the leaf. And I have to say, often a little bit hard to judge the quality according to the smell, because all Yenshas can smell really good. I mean, in fact, most of them smell delicious on the dry and the wet, and often they reveal their flaws in the taste. But the smell here is just remarkable. I'm picking up that roast, but it has mellowed out, so it's sort of like a dark baked biscuits. I'm getting a little bit of chocolate brownie in there, and the fruit is starting to peek its head over the wall there. And what fruit is it? Cherries. It's like cherry chocolate brownies. And so the roast, when I say the roast has died down, you don't want any of that sort of, you don't want any excessive sort of charcoal creosote sort of note to it. It needs to be quite, the warmth of the roast should be there. You should still get a roast note, but it should be about accentuating the character of the leaf. So I'm getting chocolate, I'm getting cherry, I'm getting a very nice brightness over the top, like sort of light face cream brightness, which is very interesting and reveals to me that this is going to be a brighter tea, is going to be very, very uplifting in terms of its aroma when it hits the water. You can see here the look of the leaves, nice, well sorted, sort of, I'm very bad at describing colors, but it's sort of like a raisin brown with little touches of sort of pink purple in there. It's a very vibrant color, I have to say. It doesn't look, sometimes the Yenshas can look a bit too matted and a bit too sort of dull. This has a sort of vibrancy. It has some color to it, a slight sort of, pink purple tone to it. Okay. Give the leaves a quick rinse. And I'm going to taste this rinse. With Yenshas, I tend to be a little bit more into tasting the rinse. I think it gives a certain character to the tea. I'll let it cool down for a bit. Okay, here we go. Smell of wet leaf. Now I expect that the fruit is really going to come to the fore, and I can already smell it through the steam here. Yeah. Oh, such a rich backbone of like dark baked digestive biscuits. You know? Oh, I'm just, yeah, digestive biscuits, just dark baked digestive biscuits. I don't know if it's the same in the States. Maybe what would be the equivalent? Graham crackers? Not quite. It's darker than that and just has a bit more of a sort of a whole meal smell to it. And then the smell of the fruit. Pear, blueberries, but like cooked down, so like a compote, like pear and blueberry compote. It has a little bit of fresh golden apple note as well. So pears, apples, blueberries, dark baked biscuits, even moving a little bit tropical into the sort of mangosteen style notes. If you've had a summer haze, which is a Chilan Yensha, so different variety, that is very, very rich in those summery tropical fruit notes. It has a little bit of that, but it's still got more of that rounded edge to it. I'm not picking up any cinnamon or cassia in the smell of the wet leaf. And this is what I mean. Try not to get hung up on it's called Rou Gui, therefore it should taste of cassia. In my experience, that's not the case. And I think it sort of leads people down the wrong path. Let's quickly taste this rinse. It's obviously very, very light, but it gives me a sort of a sense of the character of the tea. Yeah. Okay, this has a great combination. My suspicion is it has a great combination of maturity and freshness. Rinse is pretty good, actually. All right, here we go. We can talk about tasting the rinse in another video. I just want to focus on getting my tasting notes for this one. So we're going to brew it. Yenshas, being larger leaves, can withstand hot water and long brews. I'm going to brew this for about 20 odd seconds. Let's quickly clean this cup. First tea release of 2021. Let's make this year a great one. Lots of incredible tea. I'm sure we're going to find some great stuff, and a happier year for everybody. So that was about half a minute. This cup is a little bit small to fit this guy on, but we can live with it. So it's going to be a little bit hotter, so I'm going to let it cool a little bit. The color of the liquor, a lovely, bright, vibrant, sort of bourbon whiskey golden brown color there. My mouth, even with that rinse, definitely has a freshness to it, like a like sherbet, you know, the powdered sherbet. It sort of has that vitamin C, ascorbic acid, freshness, not sourness, not even acidity, but almost like freshness in the air, fresh air, freshness. Cherries, getting a little bit of that chocolate brownie. But cherries, and still it's got a creaminess which you want in a Rou Gui. It's not just about, in my opinion, fragrance and spice, and I am getting some spice now, but it's not just about that. You also want a sort of a roundness and a creaminess. And the reason why we haven't selected Rou Gui, I forgot to mention, is because the price is high, number one, and you know, the price point and the experience in the cup always have to match up. But also, a lot of them I don't know if it's the processing, I don't know if it's the intention of the producer, but a lot of them exhibit very robust, very fragrant forward notes on the nose, and so when you're smelling it, and even in first sips, but they don't leave you with a sense of, it's very difficult to describe, like a sense of comfort and cleanliness. A lot of Yenshas can can have a great aroma and a great taste at the front of the experience, but after you've swallowed, you get a sort of slightly scratchy, slightly like charcoaly note that happens with a lot of Yenshas. And it's one of the reasons why, as I said, sourcing Yenshas is difficult, because you start to taste through some samples, there are obviously ones that are medium quality, in my opinion, or not quite Mayleaf standard, and they leave your mouth with a certain sort of like coating that is hard to sort of beat. But when you find a great Rou Gui or a great Yensha, it leaves you with this beautiful sense of comfort and freshness in the mouth. So you're getting the whole experience. You're getting brightness and fruitiness. You're getting richness and depth and warmth from the roast. You're getting all of the aromatics and spice that you want from a tea. Then you also get a creaminess, as I said, you want that creaminess. And then you're left with this sense of a very comfortable feeling in the mouth. I'll try to describe it better. I know that's comfortable feeling in the mouth. I sound very much like Chinese farmers, because that's what they always say to me. But I understand what they mean. It's hard for me to describe it to you. Obviously, a lot of you out there know exactly what I mean. When you're drinking Yenshas, there's a sort of calming, settling nature in how it's leaving your mouth, and a vaporous, rising, persistent aroma. So let's keep going. That creaminess, almost a touch of coconut. I'm getting the spice of cassia, but it's very, very much in the background. It's not trying to dominate things here. It's more after you swallow. The dominant flavor on the first infusion, and the infusions will change. Another thing with Yensha is a lot of Yenshas start off great and then drop. So you want to have a Yensha which is going to persist over, many infusions. If it drops after second, third infusion, it's very, very disappointing. I'm getting that dark baked biscuit as well. I'm getting some mangosteen, custard apple, so those sort of creamier fruits. So custard apples, cherries, a little bit of dark baked biscuits, a little bit of coconut, a little bit of cassia. But then what I described before as like a sherbet freshness is really flooding forwards. It's like it is like fresh air. It's like winter air. It's like you step out on a snowy day and you get that fresh, vibrant hit of ozone and snow. And it's an interesting area, especially prominent in Yenshas, is the concept of non-food related tasting notes. So tasting notes that are not related to things that you actually eat. So for example, we often talk about minerality in tea, in Yenshas in particular, because it's called Yensha, rock tea, Rock Oolong. There's a lot of contention about what that means, because how many times do you lick a rock, and what does that mean? Well, what I'm talking about here is that smell of snow, that smell of ozone, that smell of freshness. There's even a sense of like petrichor here, the smell that the earth emits when it's raining. So when it rains, you get this incredible smell that rises from the earth. So all of these non-food related tasting notes are very, very much prevalent in tea tasting, just like wine tasting. And some people think of it maybe slightly pretentiously, like, well, why are you talking about, I don't know, the smell of or the taste of a varnished boot? You've never eaten a varnished boot, but the aromatics are what are at play here. You know, the chemical compounds that fill your nose every time it snows or every time it rains, that is a genuine aromatic smell that you are picking up, that you are enjoying or not enjoying, as the case may be. And so it's perfectly acceptable for you to incorporate those, in my opinion, into your tasting notes, because they're not something that's imaginary. And with Yenshas, it is certainly the case that you get a lot of non-food related tasting notes, simply through the style of the tea. Okay, second infusion. Let's see if we can pick up more of those non-food related tasting notes. Oh, I already get a sense that this tea is going to go through many different evolutions. So the first one was fruity, creamy, and had that that warmth that came from the roast. This one, it's a little bit more intense. The fragrance is brighter, the fragrance is higher. I'm getting more of the minerality coming through, and more of that spice coming through as well. I'm picking up more of the cassia. I'm picking up more of that rockiness, and it's starting to give me a really interesting zingy texture in the mouth. Oh, I forgot to talk about texture. The texture on this is interesting. It sort of starts off very thick when you first put it in your mouth. After you swallow, you get like that mineral quench, you get a dryness, and then it moves to this softness, a roundness, which I think is what I've been trying to get at with the first infusion. There's a certain elegance and roundness to the mouthfeel and the taste, which is what really sets it apart, in my opinion, from a lot of other Rou Guis. But it's still quenching, it's still got minerality. Let's dive a little bit further into this minerality. What is that taste? What is that? I mean, I'll probably do a longer video about this, but what is the smell of petrichor? So petrichor, I believe, comes from petri, I think is rock. So rock smell. So the smell that you get when you're out and it rains on a summer's day, and you get that smell coming off the pavement, coming off stone. That's petrichor. It's often, I think, wrongly applied to all smells coming off the earth, even smells from the soil or smells from plants when it rains. What causes that is most likely to be actually nothing to do with the rocks themselves, but the coating on the rocks or the coating on the plants, usually caused by microorganisms. So living metabolic processes leave like thin veneer of aromatics, and that they sort of react with sunlight and the air and the rock, and it creates this particular set of aromatics. And as soon as the rain hits it, it displaces it. The water sort of launches all of these aromatics into the air, and you get this incredible smell of rock. It's the same with soil. When rain hits soil, you get this uprush of carbon dioxide that pushes the aromas up. You get the rain displacing it, and you get lots of activity from the microbes in the soil, and that again gives you this incredible sweet, heady, musky smell. And this is not so much of that sort of earthy, it's much more of the petrichor, of the stony, mineral, aromatic. I mean, it also has that it also has that ozone, as I said, snow, ozone. So when you get storms and you get lightning, that creates a lot of ozone. Ozone is that very fresh aromatic, that very fresh, bright, bracing, clean smell that you get when you step out. You know, if you're in a chalet and you're in a mountainous area where there's snow, and you get that hit of smell. Also, colder temperatures sort of stop the other aromatics from showing, so you sort of get this ultra clean aromatic that comes from a snowy area. So this tea has all of that. It's got petrichor, it's got snow, amongst all of the fruitiness that we talked about before. And the finish is just so, it's so much of that. And that's what makes it so comfortable. I'm getting like mangosteens and cherries and snow and rain, and it's very evocative. It sort of reminds me of, I don't know, stepping out on a snowy day, or, you know, opening the window in the middle of the night when it's raining on sort of a residential street, and you're getting just the smell of, the smell coming from the stone, from that veneer of aromatics that have built up on the stones themselves. There's also a slight saltiness to it. It's like the combination of that creaminess that we were talking about before moves to sort of like a salted fudge, or like a salted nougat, you know, like a little bit nutty, creamy, almost slightly vanilla-y, but it's not as sort of dense as a vanilla note. It's a bit lighter. So yeah, nougat is, I think, a good way to put it, but salted. So you're getting this lovely, makes you want to lick your mouth, sort of salted nougat note coming through. And the texture, as I said, the finish in the mouth is comfortable, cooling, juicy, slightly juicy, with like again, like a fruity, zesty is too strong a word. It's like pomelo. So it's grape in the grapefruit zone, but not as bright as a grapefruit, a little bit sweeter, a little bit rounder, a little bit warmer. So a sort of pomelo sweetness. Very, very, very lovely transition. Thick, mineral, soft, and then comfortable juiciness from the pomelo. None of this sort of slightly acrid, you know, aftertaste that some yenchas can give you. And I would probably go as far as saying that this is not a classic Rou Gui taste, you know. As I said, Rou Gui, a lot of people look for that cinnamon cassia note. And yes, just in the background I can pick it up, but you know, you can pick up that sort of note in a lot of yenchas. So I wouldn't say that that is something that is very prominent in the tea. But it doesn't matter. I love this tea for its for all of the balance that it provides. Creaminess, backbone, minerality, fruitiness, and comfort. And the comfort, I would say, is probably the number one factor here for me. The number one. The taste is glorious, but I'm very, very, I get a lot of frustration when I taste yenchas that it doesn't leave me with a nice finish. It feels like this is a very cooling tea whilst giving me a little bit of perspiration. Let's see, a third or fourth infusion. I may have missed one out here. And this is when yenchas start to really, like, even good yenchas, even ones that have got a lot of taste, can sometimes just fall off the cliff. Fourth infusion, you're like, oh, where's it gone? Not the case with this one. Very, very fragrant. And it's because of the fact that you get this comfort, ozone, petrichor, fruitiness and the finish, that it means that even as this becomes lighter, you're still going to get that. You're still going to get that. So yes, you're going to have a dialing down of the intensity of the brownies and the cherries, but you'll still get a light fruitiness, and you're not going to be left with anything that was sort of hidden by the aromatics. And I guess that's what I'm trying to say. A lot of those very rich aromatic Rou Guis that we've tasted really start off well, but then once that strength and that aroma dissipates, you're left with understanding what the leaf is actually like, and oftentimes that can be disappointing or underwhelming or unpleasant, and that's not the case here. Yeah, those fruits are still there. Still getting those cherries, pears, and blueberries. All right, let's have a sniff of the empty cup. Body sensation, I can already tell you, is giving me a nice cooling perspiration. This is going to be a very settled tea. It's going to be a tea which I think is going to, yes, get you there. It's going to definitely offer some sort of stimulation and a little bit of an altered state, but nothing too strong. And that great combination of warm on the inside, you know, just sort of that comfortable, warm feeling on the inside with a light, cleansing, cooling nature on the outside. Another reason why it is a great tea to drink around this time of year. And I know a lot of you are sipping on Yenshas since it is cold weather for a lot of us in the world. Okay, let's see what the smell of the empty cup is from this. I've never smelt empty cup from this cup before. Here we go. Yeah, very perfumed. Again, cherry, but almost like candied cherries. Not quite in the maraschino cherry note, but cherries, and that vanilla is coming through. So now I'm definitely getting fudge. That nougat has moved to fudge. So like a cherry fudge. These leaves are still opening, but you can see they're starting to reveal more of their green nature. So a little bit more of that sort of dark foresty colors, you know, and it's still not properly revealed itself yet, but you're getting more of the green note through it. Very nice production. You can see well sorted, good sort of nice size leaves, you know, sort of still youngish, not like these really, really large gnarly leaves. A great production, really, really good price point on this, considering the quality of the Rou Gui, which is another reason why we snapped it up as soon as we tasted it. That's new in stock. We don't have a name. It'll have something to do with, I'm guessing, petrichor and snow. I'm not quite sure, and fruit, but you'll see. I'll put it in the link. I'll put a link in the description below so you can go check it out if you are interested. Rou Gui finally has landed at Mayleaf. That's it, tea heads. Check out our other videos, taste our teas wherever you are in the world by browsing mayleaf.com, and come visit us if you're ever in London. Other than that, I'm Don from Mayleaf. Thank you for being a part of the revelation of true tea. Stay away from those tea bags, keep drinking the good stuff, and spread the word, because nobody deserves bad tea. Bye.